COVID can't keep me down. So, for those of you wondering, I've had COVID for the next past few days. I went to the hospital. According to my cousin, am a melodramatic. He put it in a different word. He said that I was he used a certain terminology to explain me. Melodramatic. I want to say pussy, but it's not pussy. It's rather mitochondriac, I think is what he called me. um, and I don't think that that's true at all. Nonetheless, I wanted to look at 2 episodes of Friday Night SmackDown from the year 2001. Peacock has this thing that they do sometimes wherever they go in. Originally, I wanted to watch that damn pay per view that I was talking about last week where AJ Styles faced off against Bully Ray. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that either because I got COVID. I couldn't imagine myself trying to watch a pay per view while trying to focus on only the match and nothing more than the match, and have to do nothing but they've got me laid up on like 4 medicines. My doctor told me to take zinc tablets and to take vitamin C tablets. I swear, I don't know what to make of any of this, But don't worry, I'm gonna put COVID in a headlock, and then after that, I'm gonna keep it down. That way that the referee can drop its hand for the 3rd time, and whenever the referee drops its hand for the 3rd time and then rings the bell, I will be the referee, and the ring announcer will announce that I am the new COVID champion. Take that, COVID. Okay, so we're watching a Friday Night SmackDown episode, and it's just one episode, but a lot happens. A lot happens in this one small episode that allows me to have a lot to cover. So it starts with a recap of last week on Monday Night Raw, where Vince and Kurt Angle said that they are going to face off against The Rock. And don't worry, Rock, you'll have a partner. It's someone you enjoy being around, and for that matter, it's someone that you care about. Then it cuts to a clip of The Rock kissing Trish Stratus. So Trish Stratus will be your tag team partner in a tag team match where the loser will kiss the winner's ass. Okay, so the highlights, for whatever reason, whenever they're showing the highlights, they show a definite 3 count whenever I think it's Vince McMahon pins The Rock. The referee comes down for not 1, not 2, but 3, and then not only 3, but he brings his hand up for a 4th time, and then he's about to count 4, but then The Rock kicks out. And I had to go back and watch it like 3 or 4 times. And it wasn't until like the 4th time that I'd only seen the ref come down not once, not twice. And then he tries to come down for a 3rd time, but then The Rock kicks out. But then I started to wonder, those other 3 times, what was I seeing? So there's already some controversy there. The referee had clearly already counted 3, but didn't ring the bell to signify that the match was over. And The Rock kicked out at 4. Vince chases Trish off of the ring apron down to the up to the ring area, and Stone Cold comes out, and Jerry Lawler, no, not Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross on commentary says, and McMahon looks like he's seen a ghost, because whenever Steve Austin comes out, he starts laughing and hooping and hollering and having a good old time. And I guess the referee didn't think but to disqualify the opposing team, or for that matter, put Vince McMahon on the right rope, because he shouldn't have been busy chasing The Rock's tag team partner out of the arena. Whenever Austin comes out, though, he does a move called a hot shot. He does it to Kurt Angle. And the hot shot is done whenever you are on the ring apron and your opponent is inside the ring. You take their neck and you pull down on it, and you basically guillotine them between the ring rope on their throat. You just, I guess it's hard to explain. But whenever they do that, they're supposed to shoot straight out, like an explosion. Like almost like out of a cannon, you know. Stone Cold comes out and beats the hell out of Vince and Kurt. Tag team main event hype as Austin and The Rock will face off against Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho to build hype for their pay-per-view known as Vengeance. And don't worry, we'll get to Vengeance here in just a minute. But the main event for tonight will be a tag team match where champion Steve Austin, the WWF champion, and champion The Rock, the WCW World Heavyweight champion, will face off against Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho. Edge comes out to, whenever Edge is the Intercontinental Champion, and whenever he comes out to this song. They say it's his new theme song, and they show like credits to who sings his new theme song on the side of the on the side of the TV monitor there, and it says it's Sinister Urge by Rob Zombie, and I spelled Rob correctly, not collectively. I spelled Rob correct. Holy crap. I spelled Rob correctly, but I spelled zombie wrong, because I forgot to put an E somewhere. I spelled Zombi, which is clearly not how you spell zombie unless you're Canadian or Japanese. And I'm neither one. I'm not even Canadian Japanese. Edge comes out to Sinister Urge, which sounds a little bit like this. And you said you're right, yeah. And then he says, never gonna stop me, never gonna stop. Oh, God damn it. I honestly wouldn't even know anything about that song. A 6-man tag team match. It's hard to hear Michael Cole over the music, and the music that I'm talking about is the Big Show's music, because Michael Cole's trying to give you a recap of what happened a week and 2 weeks ago. Edge and Big Show and Kane are all on the same team. Michael Cole's trying to recap, and the next thing you hear over Michael Cole is, well, it's the Big Show! And it just keeps getting louder from there. Versus William Regal and the Dudley Boys, Devon and Bubba Ray Dudley. And then we get to see said recap where William Regal has been using these brass knuckles in order to deliver some sort of patriotic justice, is what he would call, to filthy Canadians and filthy Americans, such as Edge and The Big Show and Kane. Kane's always been announced to be from parts unknown, so I'm not really sure how that's patriotic justice if you don't know where the man's from to begin with. But nonetheless, I don't make the rules around here, I just follow them. Seriously, they've got me on like 4 different medicines. It's not fun. Edge and The Big Show and Kane versus William Regal and Devon Dudley and Bubba Ray Dudley. King talks about giving Stacy Keibel a stripping search. So what ends up happening is William Regal on his way to the ring ends up getting patted down because they're so afraid that he's still got those brass knuckles on him. So the referee starts to do a search and see if he's got them on him, checking his tights, checking his boots, checking like his oh crap. Like his knee pads and his elbow pads and stuff of that nature. Seeing if he could hide anything. So King, being the pervert that he is, because God forbid a woman show up on TV, he's always about, oh look, puppies. And of course he's referring to their breasts. And he talks about giving Stacy Keibler a strip search. The Big Show bends Stacy over his knee and almost spanks her. He literally licks his hand and he's about to spank her, but then someone comes in to save her. I think it's Devon Dudley. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was pretty entertaining, but it was kind of like everybody got their crap in, and then after that they just left. So those are the plans for... Okay, so the next thing you see is a conversation that takes place between Vince McMahon and Kurt Angle. And in this conversation, the camera comes in to their dressing room, and it seems like it's the most... How do I say... the most generic plan that you'll ever... It's kind of like whenever Family Guy does the same joke, wherever they sit down and then they say, yeah, so that's what happened this weekend. And then Cleveland and Joe and Quagmire look at Peter and then say, what do you mean that's what happened this weekend? You never told us what happened this weekend. You just sat down and said, so that's what happened this weekend. That's kind of what you get here, is the camera coming in at the laziest point. Vince McMahon telling Kurt Angle. So, those are the plans for later tonight. First thing they say when they come on camera, when the cameraman pans backstage to Kurt Angle and Vince McMahon. So if you don't know, I said at the beginning of the program that it starts with a recap of last week, Monday Night Raw, where Vince and Kurt Angle faced off against The Rock and Trish Stratus in a tag team match where the loser kisses the winner's ass. Somewhere in that match, Chris Jericho came in and he lion salted he lion salted The Rock, and he tried to get The Rock to lose that match so that The Rock would have to kiss Vince McMahon's ass. Let me explain what's going to happen now. That after Vince McMahon chased off. He chased off Trish Stratus, and after he chased off Trish, Steve Austin came to the aid of The Rock, and Austin and The Rock cleaned house, and The Rock ended up winning. That match without a tag team partner. Like I said, the loser's going to kiss the winner's ass by the end of the night. And whenever they're talking backstage, one thing that Kurt Angle does is he inadvertently, I don't think that he realizes what he's doing, and if he does, then he does a pretty good job of acting like an idiot the entire time. Kurt Angle rubs in the fact that McMahon has to kiss The Rock's ass. He says, I can't imagine what it must have to feel like to have your billionaire lips pressed up against The Rock's ass cheeks. And he's just rubbing it in. And Kurt Angle offered Mr. McMahon a lozenge earlier in the night. He said, you want a throat lozenge? I mean, you're not looking so good. Seems like you lost the bass in your voice, much like I'm losing the bass in my voice. But anyway, he asks him if he wants a throat lozenge, and then he says, yeah, I could use one. He gives him one, and then he starts sucking on it, and then like 5 minutes go by after Kurt Angle starts saying, I can't imagine what it must feel like to be on your knees, kissing another man's ass. That's just terrible, Mr. McMahon. You're better than that. But McMahon did lose the match last week, so he must adhere to the demands that have been set for him. And had that been the case, Mr. McMahon then spits out the lozenge as a defiant, like, the hell's wrong with you? Talk about me kissing another man's ass. The next match that we go to... Oh, okay. I mean, Kurt Angle rubs it in even more by saying, you're going to be embarrassed by thousands upon millions tonight. Because at the time, the WWE was pulling ratings that were unheard of. Or the WWF, rather. But it was still pulling ratings that were practically unheard of. And that's what the USA Network enjoyed a whole lot. Little did we know that they would go back on their agreement and then say, hey, guys, we appreciate the ratings, we appreciate the ad revenue, and don't worry, we'll get to that. Because before this next match starts, we get an ad for Madden NFL 2002. Here's what Michael Cole says. And tonight's episode of Friday Night SmackDown is brought to you by Madden NFL 2002. If it's in the game, it's in the game. So tell me, Cole, what happens in the event that it's not in the game? If it's in the game, it's in the game. What kind of marketing strategy, what kind of marketing ploy were they using to get wrestling fans to actually buy into Madden NFL 2002? To say that if it's in the game, it's in the game. But, I mean, you're just fucked if it's not in the game, I guess. Kurt Angle just basically rubbing it in this entire time. He's just talking about how, you know, you're going to have to kiss ass. And I feel sorry for you, Mr. McMahon. Now this story here just revolves around Matt Hardy wanting to get revenge on Jeff Hardy, and it also revolves around, this is layers right here. RVD wanting, The Undertaker wanting respect from RVD, who is your hardcore champion. This is a hardcore championship match, even though I didn't put that here in my notes. I specifically remember it being a hardcore championship match. RVD was to face off Rob Van Dam against Matt Hardy. I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Pretty decent match. Really nothing to scoff at. It was quite short though. It ran around the mid-range to, short section of the wrestling as far as that goes. The Undertaker ambushes RVD after the match is over and beats him down using a ladder. Undertaker mocking RVD's taunt. The ref is just waving his hand in front. So the referee, there's only one referee out there. Usually they send backup. If it was a real problem, you'd see like 4 or 5, 6 or 7, 8 or 10 referees, and then a few commissioners come out and try to stop RVD from getting his head kicked in. But I guess it just wasn't that much of a problem. It didn't take up that much of their time, or for that matter, it wasn't on their to-do list. So, had that been the case, RVD versus Matt Hardy was technically a hardcore match of some sort. And Matt Hardy kept talking about how Jeff Hardy keeps just costing him everything, and he's tired of everything, him getting cost everything. And King on commentary keeps asking, "Where's Lita? Where's Lita? I want to see her puppies. Where's Lita?" If you don't already know, puppies is a euphemism for titties. For Jerry the King Lawler. Titties. This brings us to our next match. Albert and Scotty 2 Hotty versus Test and Christian. Christian, who is the European champion at this time. So Albert and Test used to be a formidable tag team together. And I'm not really sure what happened. Like, they don't exactly, to my knowledge, they don't exactly, come out and say. And I don't ever remember these two splitting apart from each other, because together with Trish Stratus, they were TNA, which is a euphemism for sex. But Test and Albert, TNA. Or Trish and Albert. Or Test and... No. It only works 2 or 3 ways. It's either tits and ass, Test and Albert, or Trish and Albert. To my knowledge. So, Albert and Scotty 2 Hotty versus Test and your European champion, Christian. Earl Hebner kicks the rope of Test, was hanging on to... So, Test was hanging on to the, either the top or the second rope, if I remember correctly. And, Earl Hebner kicks the rope out from underneath him. So, he wasn't allowed to hang on to the rope for leverage. Which is a normal response for someone who's about to be pinned in a pinning predicament. Especially in a pinning predicament that's known as a sunset flip pin. And that's terrible. I've talked about this before. If you remember, it was Sacrifice 09. It was a tag team match. I'm looking for it right now. Here we go. Black Machismo, Jay Lethal, Sheik grabbing the ropes to save himself from the pin. The ref kicks the ropes and fast counts Abdul's shoulders, which the referee shouldn't never do. And then you get Jerry Lawler on commentary telling Michael Cole that he's just doing his job, when in fact he is not doing his job. His job is not to kick the ropes whenever another wrestler rather, goes to grab those ropes for their own well-being and their own safety, as to say, hey, dickhead, I'm not letting you pin me. He's using the ropes as leverage, and he's not doing it in a way that is illegal. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to count to 5. And if they do not break it by the count of 5, you're supposed to ring the bell. They are disqualified. That is right. You're allowed to disqualify someone if they are holding on to the ring ropes, using it as leverage for way too long. Or at least what you would consider to be way too long. Vince comes out and talks about how he doesn't kiss ass because he's a certified billionaire. It looks like I was trying to... Yeah. Austin shows up and lets him know that the plan Vince had is going to be going down as he isn't going to be going down as he planned. You see, Austin shows up on the Titantron and then he says, "What?" And it's barely an audible what. Like you can barely hear Austin say, "What?" Vince McMahon is in the ring. He's got a microphone. He's going on. And then he said, "I said," and then he said, "Wait a minute. Who said what?" And then he looks up at the Titantron. He sees Austin up there. And then Austin just keeps going, "What? What? 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 What?" Like a broken record. And the whole time that Austin's up there mocking McMahon, he said, "You didn't think that you were going to be kissing anybody's ass tonight, did you, Vince?" He ends up just laying it on thick for Vince McMahon, basically telling him that he's going to be kissing somebody's ass, whether he wants to or not. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The fact is that he was going to be kissing somebody's ass by the end of the night, and he's going to do 2 things: nothing and like it. So he kicks the shit out of Kurt Angle. He finds him out in the hallway somewhere, and then he said, "Did you think Kurt Angle was going to come down and be your hero? Because he ain't being nobody's hero right now. I got him internally bleeding over here." And that's practically what he does. He gets up in Kurt Angle's face, and he just starts beating the holy hell out of him. So Vince's whole plan about being a certified billionaire rather, just went out the window. He's just letting him know that it's not going to be going down like that. It kind of threw a wrench in Vince McMahon's plans. "Vince, if you come up this ramp, Stone Cold Steve Austin will be waiting right here to deal out a few of these knuckle sandwiches." I thought that it was the funniest thing ever that Austin said. If you come up this ramp, Vince McMahon's going to be right here to deal out some knuckle sandwiches. Or Vince McMahon. I mean, Steve Austin's going to be right up here waiting for you so that he can deal out some knuckle sandwiches. And then The Rock says that JR is going to come down, and whenever he does, you're going to kiss his ass. Okay, Austin? Or, God damn it. Okay, McMahon? So, JR's music plays, because over the past few weeks, Vince McMahon's been disrespecting good old JR. who is one of the best wrestling commentators that has ever graced the inside of a wrestling ring, or for that matter, has ever graced a commentator's table. JR comes out. The Rock says, Vince, you're going to kiss JR's ass. Then changes his mind, tells JR to go sit at the commentator's desk. He said, no. You're not going to be kissing JR's ass. What do you think? What are you thinking? I'm not going to let you kiss his ass. Then he says, you know what? I got better plans for you, Vince. He says, tonight, you're not going to be kissing any ass. You're going to be kissing her ass. And then all of a sudden, Trish Stratus comes out. And Vince McMahon was totally expecting to be able to kiss her ass. I mean, King on commentary, of course, just going crazy. Like, hey, Vince, if you don't want to do it, then I will. Because, for whatever reason, King is just a Tennessee pervert. And he has to get his chops in and get his licks in every chance that he gets. So like I said, there was a lot to uncover in this episode here. So, that's what I basically wanted to do, was run down everything that happened at this point in time and what it was that made it exactly what it is, how it came to be, and for that matter, what made it so special, especially around this time. It's really strange when you come to think about it. But at the same time, I find it to be extremely entertaining. Vince comes out and talks about how he doesn't kiss ass. Oh, yeah, because he's a certified billionaire. Austin basically throws a wrench in his plans. If you come up the ramp, you're going to get these knuckle sandwiches. JR comes out and The Rock says that Vince is going to kiss JR's ass. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get my place again. Then Trish Stratus comes out. And Trish Stratus, her music hits. She's the woman's champion. She comes out. Whoa, it's time to rock and roll. Whoa, this time I'm in control. And right now you hit the streets. I got the keys to the city. That's why I am down. Vince was told he would get to kiss her ass. And he goes ahead and he puts on chapstick. He's getting all excited. I mean, he's like, really? I get to kiss her ass? And then all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, The Rock's not such a bad guy, is he? He's like, no, you ain't, Rock. You're the best man ever. And of course, he's given The Rock some praise. You know, he's got this big old smile on his face. And then he says, well, what are you waiting for, Chief? Go on. Go kiss her ass. And then he literally, quite literally, goes in to like pucker up and then give her ass cheek a big old kiss. And what ends up happening is The Rock puts his hand in front of Vince McMahon's face. And he says, whoa, what in the blue hell are you doing? And then Trish pulls up her pants and then goes and sits down. She goes and sits down beside the commentator's desk because The Rock just swerved him. He just played him for a fool. And then The Rock says that he's got he knows exactly whose ass Vince McMahon needs to kiss. So The Rock brings out Rikishi, and Vince McMahon has his moment here, wherever he's basically like, "Oh no, I ain't kissing Rikishi's ass," you know? Like, I'm not doing that. Now, at this time, the co-owner of the WWE comes down to the ramp, and then he says that if anybody interferes with this procedure, they will be suspended. So, no one's to interfere, or else they're going to get a pay cut and a suspension. Rikishi's music hits, and McMahon looks like he's seen a ghost. The Rock then rock bottoms Vince, holds him in place, telling Rikishi to back his ass up, and The Rock says the Vince McMahon Kiss Your Ass Club is officially closed. So the whole point of that was because years had went by where Vince McMahon had this whole exclusive Billionaires Kiss My Ass Club, and for whatever reason, he had humiliated different people to make them keep their jobs because it was a social commentary for that. What if you had to kiss ass to keep your job, you know? But it never came down to actually kissing ass. It just came down to how much ass would you kiss to keep your job? You know, would you literally kiss someone's ass to keep your job? Or would you rather just not kiss any ass to keep your job? And if so, how much ass? It's kind of like one of those riddles. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? You know, it doesn't really hold up any water if you think about it in that vein. Crash Holly then goes up against Jacqueline in a squash match. Honestly, if it were me, I would have put this match somewhere at the beginning of the card, because it's so short. Card placement is honestly something that they need to pay more attention to, because Crash Holly and Jacqueline really don't belong in the third spot before the main event. I give it 2.5 out of 5 stars because it wasn't that entertaining. It wasn't that fun to look at, and it was poor storytelling. It was apparently because Jacqueline thought that since Crash Holly wanted to wish Trish Stratus good luck in her match against Jacqueline, Crash Holly wished Trish Stratus good luck in her match against Jacqueline. She took disrespect to that. Jacqueline did. So she challenged Crash Holly to a match. Crash looks at her and says, "Calm down, it's just a woman's match." And then she says, "I'll show you a woman's match." So that's the highlights for that one. Not that you asked. But I don't know when it was, but someone told me that Crash Holly died in a car accident. So I guess you could say that he crashed and burned. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can hear you booing me right now. Booker T and Ric Flair segment, or Booker T would like to talk to Vince McMahon because they both hate Stone Cold Steve Austin. Booker T literally looks at Ric Flair and says, "Listen, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to Vince." And on top of that, Rick tells him that they've got nothing in store for him. You know, like, I'm not looking to hire tonight. And this is 3 days before their pay-per-view that they would have. Called Vengeance. And Booker T doesn't get anywhere with Ric Flair. He's just like, well, I wanted to speak to Vince McMahon. I didn't want to talk to you anyway. You know, he's like trying to drive home the point that he was wanting to talk to Vince McMahon. He didn't care what Ric Flair had to say. And then he told him, Ric Flair told him, Vince McMahon's not here right now. You know, but if you have a problem, I'm 50% owner of the company. And this was back whenever Ric Flair was the co-owner of the WWE. At the time, it was known as the WWF, but they don't want you to remember that. I don't know how much I'm burying myself here with this WWF, WWE thing. Because you know, if I plan on working there one day, they'll be like, "Hey, listen, we noticed you had some content where you were taking out the commentary and some of our products. We would appreciate it if you would take that down, because it doesn't present us in the best light." Booker T talking to Ric Flair. He says, "Listen, I'm not looking to hire tonight." Undertaker APA segment. So the APA, the Acolyte Protection Agency, were just sitting down, having some beer. They were just, you know, shooting a breeze with each other. Looked like that they'd already went through like 15 or 18 or 25 beers. They had nothing but crushed beer cans around them and, you know, cigarette ashes or cigar ashes, whatever the case may be. They had nothing but, you know, pool or card game high stakes remnants around them. And it looks like that they were having a good old jolly time. What we would call in America a jolly good old time. And the Undertaker walks by and then he says, "Is there a reason you two are eyeballing me right now?" So the Undertaker at this time was going through this change. A lot of people didn't like this change, but a lot of people did like this change. The change was the fact that he went from the dead man to biker taker. It's almost like he was having a midlife crisis. Which, how does a dead man, because it's what he called himself back before he went into biker taker. I mean, he would continue to call himself Dead Man. Matter of fact, he would go on to incorporate it, Dead Man Inc. And not like, you know, ink that you get like tattoo ink, but like ink incorporated. But what I mean is, he would go on to like incorporate it. I'm not really sure what that means, but I'm assuming that it means something big. Like now he can charge you. Now that he's going to kick your ass, he's going to charge you and he's going to claim his taxes on it. Like, what? Nonetheless, Bradshaw gets all up in Undertaker's face, all up in his business, and then he lets him know that if you owe anybody an explanation for your actions for these past 2 weeks, you owe us. an explanation. Talking about him and Farouk. And instead of them fighting right there on their poker table, they say, meet me in the ring, which I found to be very, and I was like, wait, what? Why can't you just beat their ass right now? Undertaker, or for that matter, why couldn't Bradshaw and Farouk just jump the Undertaker right there? Like, this was the Attitude Era, right? This was the Attitude Era. The era of attitude, which was real rude and whatever. Basically, what it was just a no holds barred, anything goes type of era, wherever you were allowed to sneak up behind people, but while they weren't looking, and you was allowed to, like, you know, talk spit about them while they were in the arena and let them know who the boss was. Speaking of the boss, Sasha Banks and Naomi recently caught some sort of headwind fire because they walked out on a Monday Night Raw taping, on a live show or a house show, something like that. Because this is just what I'm told. I never really looked up an article on it or anything like that. But it's come to my attention that for whatever reason, Naomi and Sasha Banks don't think that their titles mean anything. They think that it's sort of a consolation prize. I can understand their grievances, but at the same time, if your championship, you feel like it's been devalued, or for that matter, you feel as though that it has no value to it, then you make it what, like, you could possibly come out each and every week and make it valuable. They say a champion's only as good as their last title defense. So why not challenge the women to women's tag team action and make it mean something? And put on 4.5 to 5-star match bangers every week. John Cena used to do this thing wherever he would come out every week and then he would offer a United States Open Challenge until Kevin Owens fucked that up. Every week, John Cena would come out and say the John Cena United States Open Challenge starts right now. And then a Canadian come out and fucked all of that. Fucked it all up. Because in Canada, we don't believe in freedom. But nonetheless, we get The Undertaker versus Bradshaw, and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. But that was just me trying to, like, I hadn't read any sort of article, despite the fact that I'd seen like 25 or 45 or 85 headlines about, so I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I'd seen article after article after article of nothing but Sasha Banks and Naomi and how they were suspended and how much trouble that they're in and how much the WWE doesn't want to hire them back. All because they think that their championships don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but in reality, it's not the champion who makes the championship mean. It's not the championship that makes the champion mean anything. You could give a world heavyweight championship rather to a lot of people, let's say, but only a few select few who actually know how to raise the bar and then bring more heat to that title and bring it to a state where everyone's going to look at that champion and then they're going to say, damn, he's doing a damn good job with that title that they gave him. You know, you could have a championship with a lot of prestige. Take Sami Zayn, for instance, with the Intercontinental title. He didn't do shit with it. He won it, and he didn't do shit with it. And it barely lasted 3 months. What was the point in giving it to him? To possibly elevate his, I'm going to put this in air quotes, character development. Right. That's a jolly good old time. But did it work? No. He had no character development. Thank God he hasn't won. And I'm not a religious person. I've talked about that before here. But thank you, some Jesus in the sky, that he has not won a World Heavyweight Championship. As of the date of this recording, he has not won a World Heavyweight title, a WWE title, a Universal title. He hasn't won any of those championships, and he only kept the NXT championship for almost 3 weeks. Almost. He's such a fragile peanut butter candy bar that he broke his arm while he had it. And they almost had to vacate it, but decided, you know what? We'll just give him a really short match. And now it's time for our main event of the evening. The Rock teams up with Steve Austin. They're both champions, by the way. The Rock is the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Steve Austin is the WWF Champion, World Heavyweight Champion. Kurt Angle will face off, the team of The Rock and Steve Austin will face off against Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho. What was very interesting to me was the lazy booking. I guess their mantra at this time was to, quote, send them home happy. Because it almost seemed like what they wanted to do was allow Steve Austin and The Rock to win. Because Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho were the two heels of the group. I even put a note here that said Jericho tapped out but would go on to win both titles. You see, Jericho, in their match that they would have 3 days later, Kurt Angle would face off against The Rock, and Steve Austin would face off against Chris Jericho. Now, the winner of The Rock versus Kurt Angle would go on to face Steve Austin versus Chris Jericho later on in the night. So what would happen was The Rock versus Kurt Angle, The Rock would end up winning, and then Steve Austin versus Chris Jericho, Jericho would end up winning. And then you would get a rematch from the tag team match that happened 3 nights prior. Because The Rock earlier, or The Rock in this instance, made Chris Jericho tap out. What's also interesting is the fact that Jericho and Kurt Angle are both submissions technical wrestlers. And The Rock and Steve Austin are both like striker versed wrestlers. That's also what struck me as being very interesting and lucrative. The fact that Jericho tapped out but would go on to win both titles. The only reason he would beat Steve Austin that I could see was the interference by Booker T. If you'll remember, earlier on in the night, Booker T and Ric Flair's segment where Booker T would want to talk to Vince McMahon, stating that he had something in common with Vince because they both hate Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, what better way than to make an impact on the brand that you wanted to get hired by than to, of course, come out and actually say something along the lines of, hey, I don't like this guy as much as you do. I say that we go in cahoots with each other and that we do something to possibly get this man, I don't want to see him holding your world championship. I'd rather see Jericho hold it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all the time that I have for you here tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do apologize, I forgot to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Mocha. This is not the introduction, rather, this is the closing, but I'm not going to be doing this episode over. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and if you would, stay safe. And that's a wrap. And please remember to donate to any of the charitable donation sites that you might find below the link on this and the other episodes that you might see. If you cannot donate, however, that is fine. Please remember to share. I'm begging for shares now. Thank you all so much for your generous donations, and thank you all so much for tuning in every week to the Gut Wrench Podcast.